What happens when that promise twists into a nightmare? For some people, that trust is broken in the most horrific ways. They check in as guests, and are lucky to check out at all. The very thing that makes Airbnb so great, the human element, can become a source of absolute terror. The person with the keys, the one who's supposed to offer you a safe place to stay, turns out to be a monster hiding in plain sight. That charming house from the pictures becomes a trap. What do you do when the locks on the doors aren't for keeping people out, but for keeping you in? We're counting down 4 of the most disturbing and verified horror stories from real Airbnb stays. These aren't urban legends. These are documented accounts from real people whose dream getaways turned into a desperate fight for privacy, for their sanity, and in some cases, for their lives. Our first story takes us to a quaint home in Ireland, where a family on the trip of a lifetime discovered something that turned their adventure into a chilling ordeal. Story 1: The Eye in the Ceiling. For Neely and Andrew Barker, this was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. They were from New Zealand and were on an ambitious 14-month journey across Europe with their 4 young kids and their niece. It was a dream they had saved and planned for, something they looked forward to with that wide-eyed excitement you only get with a grand family adventure. They described themselves as avid Airbnb users who loved the platform for the unique, personal experiences it gave them. It was the perfect way to feel at home in a foreign country. In March of 2019, they found themselves in the beautiful landscapes of County Cork, Ireland. They booked a 3-day stay in a home that looked perfect online. It was big enough for their family, cozy, and in a great location. When they arrived, everything seemed fine. The house was clean, the kids ran to claim their rooms, and the parents started to unpack. It was a familiar, comforting routine. They were tired but excited for the days of exploration ahead. But Andrew Barker wasn't just a dad on vacation. He was also an IT security consultant. This means he had a professional's eye for networks, devices, and digital vulnerabilities. It was second nature for him to do a quick security sweep whenever they settled into a new place. As he connected his phone to the home's Wi-Fi, he did what he always did. He scanned the network to see what devices were connected. A simple, routine check he'd done dozens of times. But this time, something was different. A device popped up on the list that immediately caught his expert eye. IP camera. A feeling of unease washed over him. An IP camera is a digital video camera that sends data over a network. While a homeowner might have security cameras for legitimate reasons, Airbnb's policy is strict. Hosts must tell guests about them, and this host hadn't. On top of that, the policy flat out forbids cameras in private spaces like bedrooms and bathrooms, and they can never be hidden. His professional curiosity quickly turned into a knot of dread. Andrew used his technical skills to scan the camera's ports to see what it was doing, and then he found it, a live video feed. On the phone in his hand, he was now watching a live broadcast from somewhere inside the house. He held up the phone. On the screen, the Barker family stared back at themselves. The feed showed a wide-angle view of the main living area, the lounge, the dining room, and the kitchen, the heart of the home, the very space where they had just been unpacking, where their kids would play, where they would eat and laugh as a family. And they were being watched. Neely described the moment with chilling clarity. "We were all looking at ourselves on his mobile phone," she said. "I had one of those horrible adrenaline rushes you get when you sense danger." The cozy, welcoming house suddenly felt cold and hostile. The kids, seeing themselves on their dad's phone, got scared as they realized a stranger could be watching and listening to them at that very moment. That feeling of being in a private home was shattered. "We felt an immediate violation of our privacy," Neely recalled. The family's next move was to find the camera. Following the angle from the video feed, their eyes went to the ceiling. There, looking like a normal smoke detector, was the source. Nestled inside the plastic casing, almost impossible to spot, was the tiny, dark lens of a camera. It was perfectly placed to capture everything. The discovery was shocking. But what came next was just frustrating. Andrew called the host. When he confronted him with clear proof of the hidden camera, The host got flustered and hung up. A few minutes later, he called back, his tone shifting from panicked to dismissive. He admitted the camera was there but swore it was the only one, claiming he'd installed it just to protect his asset. He wouldn't say if it was recording audio or saving the footage. How could they possibly trust a man who had already lied to them? Feeling deeply unsafe, the Barkers did the only thing they could. Even though it was late at night, they packed up their terrified kids and their belongings and fled to a nearby hotel. The next day, Neely called Airbnb's support line, expecting them to be as outraged as she was. Instead, she got a bureaucratic runaround. "They had no advice for us over the phone," she later said. "The girl just said that if you cancel within 14 days, you won't get your money back." It was like they were treating a serious safety violation like a simple booking dispute. Airbnb's initial investigation was just as maddening. The company promised to look into it. But weeks went by. The family felt completely dismissed. It was only after Neely took their story to social media, where news outlets picked it up and it went viral, that Airbnb seemed to snap into action. Faced with public outrage, the company changed its tune. They issued a public apology to the Barker family, gave them a full refund, and permanently banned the host. "Our original handling of this incident did not meet the high standards we set for ourselves," an Airbnb spokesperson admitted. But for the Barkers, the damage was done. The incident was a chilling reminder that, in the world of home sharing, you never really know who's watching. Story to the monster in Barcelona. Sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't ghosts. They're the people who walk among us, hiding behind a friendly smile. It's the horror of realizing that the person you're supposed to trust, your host, your guide, is actually the source of the danger. This next story is one of those. It's about a dream European vacation that turned into a nightmare of betrayal and violence in a Barcelona apartment. In October of 2011, two young American women, 24 and 26, were on an adventure in Spain. Like so many other travelers, they used Airbnb to find an affordable place to stay. They booked a room in an apartment owned by a 34-year-old man named Pablo Cesar Cordoba Riascos. Based on his profile, he seemed like any other welcoming host. When the two women arrived, Cordoba Riascos played the part perfectly. He offered to show them around Barcelona, a generous offer that many travelers would jump at. The women agreed, and the three of them went out for the day. During their tour, the host kept encouraging them to drink, and they ended up consuming what the court later called very large quantities of alcohol. As the day went on, the women became heavily intoxicated, their judgment clouded. Their host, the man who was supposed to be their protector, led them back to the apartment. It was there, in the place that was supposed to be their safe haven, that the friendly mask fell away, revealing the predator underneath. Taking advantage of their inebriated state, Cordoba Riascos led the women into their room. They were in no condition to resist or fight back. In a horrific violation of trust, he assaulted both of them. The court would later confirm the cold, clinical horror of what he did, stating he was fully aware the women were not consenting. But it didn't end there. During the assault, he took photos and videos, documenting his crime. The next morning, the women woke up to the sickening realization of what had happened. They went directly to the Spanish police and filed a report. When they returned to the United States, they also reported the assault to Airbnb. The company removed Cordoba Riascos and his listing from the platform. But he wasn't done tormenting his victims. Enraged that they had gone to the police, he wrote to them and threatened to post the photos and videos he had taken of the assault online if they didn't withdraw their complaint. He tried to use their own violation to silence them. But the women refused to be intimidated and let the legal process move forward. Their bravery led to an even darker discovery. In March of 2012, Spanish police searched Cordoba Riascos' apartment. They found hundreds of similar photos and videos of other young women in vulnerable situations. It was clear the two American tourists were not his only victims. He was a serial predator who used his Airbnb as a hunting ground. He was found guilty on multiple counts: double rape, violation of privacy, and making threats. He was sentenced to nearly 12 years in prison. While the conviction brought some justice, the case exposed a terrifying vulnerability in the system. A predator could easily craft a friendly persona to lure unsuspecting guests into a trap. And this wasn't an isolated problem. A 2021 Bloomberg investigation revealed that Airbnb spends around $50 million a year on payouts to handle incidents, sometimes covering up serious crimes to protect its image. In one widely reported case, a woman who was assaulted in a New York City rental received a $7 million settlement from the company, a deal that came with a strict confidentiality agreement designed to keep nightmares like hers out of the news. The Barcelona case was a brutal reminder that behind a welcoming smile and a 5-star review, something truly evil can be waiting. The stories we're sharing today are deeply unsettling. They highlight a dark reality of travel that most of us would rather not think about. Before we move on to our next story, if you think these kinds of warnings are important, please consider subscribing to our channel for more true crime accounts. Your support helps us bring these stories to light. And if you've ever had a strange or unsettling experience with a rental, share it in the comments below. You never know, your story could help someone else avoid a dangerous situation. Now, our third story takes us to a family vacation in Texas, where the biggest problem wasn't a creepy host, where a macabre discovery in the backyard that felt like something out of a horror film. Story 3. The Grave by the Pool. For most families, a summer getaway is about splashing in the pool, having barbecues, and making happy memories. When Amy Martin and her family booked an Airbnb in Galveston, Texas, that's exactly what they had in mind. The photos showed a beautiful house with a sparkling pool, the perfect setting for a family vacation. They had no reason to think their rental came with a permanent, unmentioned resident. The family arrived, settled in, and everything seemed great. The house was amazing, the kids couldn't wait to get in the pool, and the adults were ready to unwind. As they started exploring the property, they walked toward the backyard. But as they got closer to the pool, they noticed something odd. There, set among the gravel landscaping, was a large, flat stone. At first, you might think it was just a decorative rock. But a closer look revealed what it really was. It was a gravestone. Carved into its surface were a name and dates: L. Bill Rathburn, 1913 to 1967. The fun vacation vibe immediately vanished. They were standing in their rental's backyard, next to the swimming pool, looking at what appeared to be a human grave. It was a tiny detail the host had somehow forgotten to mention in the listing. Amy Martin later shared a video of the discovery, which went viral. In the clip, a cheerful vacation-themed song plays in bizarre contrast to the image on screen. A slow pan from the bright blue water of the pool to the cold, gray tombstone just feet away. In her caption, she tried to make light of it, writing, "To be honest, it was an amazing house. R.I.P. Bill." Thankfully, the kids didn't notice, but the comments section exploded with a mix of dark humor, disbelief, and genuine concern. "Ah yes, the permanent resident," one user joked. Another person shared their own weird experience, writing, "Mine had a little girl's grave from the 1800s. The discovery revealed a strange side of home sharing most of us never think about. You might accidentally book a stay at a private cemetery." Many people immediately questioned if it was even legal to have a grave in a residential backyard. Surprisingly, in many parts of the U.S., including Texas, it is legal to bury someone on private property, as many states simply have no laws against it. It's usually subject to local zoning laws, but it's possible. One theory from viewers was that the homeowner might have established a family cemetery on the property to get a huge property tax exemption. A macabre but clever financial strategy. Whether Bill Rathburn was actually buried under the stone, or it was just a memorial marker, is unknown. But the discovery alone was profoundly unsettling. A home is supposed to be a place of life and warmth. A grave is a symbol of death and mourning. Putting the two side by side, especially in a place meant for fun, is just jarring. And while Amy Martin's story is bizarre, It touches on a more serious and recurring theme in rental horror stories: the discovery of human remains. It's rare, but it happens. In December of 2023, deputies in Tyler County, Texas, were called to a home after someone found what looked like a human jawbone. In another case in Harris County, Texas, a new homeowner cleaning up a fire-damaged house made a gruesome discovery: skeletal remains inside the home, months after the fire. These stories, while not all directly tied to short-term rentals, highlight a disturbing possibility. The properties we enter have histories we can never fully know. For the Martin family, their poolside relaxation was forever tainted by the knowledge that they were sharing their vacation with the memory of Bill Rathburn. It's a strange reminder that when you book a stay in someone else's home, you're also booking a stay with its secrets. And sometimes those secrets are buried right in the backyard. Story 4. The Last Birthday. Our final story is the most tragic. It's a story that captures the ultimate horror. A trip meant for celebration that ended in senseless violence. This is the story of Carla Stefaniak, a vibrant woman who traveled to Costa Rica to celebrate her 36th birthday and never came home. Her case isn't just a tale of a monstrous crime. It raises huge questions about corporate responsibility and the illusion of safety we have when we travel. In November of 2018, Carla Stefaniak, a Venezuelan-American living in Miami, was full of life. She loved to travel and had a loud, vibrant personality. She decided to celebrate her 36th birthday in the beautiful, lush landscapes of Costa Rica, a country known for being safe and peaceful. She traveled with her sister-in-law, April Burton, and they had a wonderful time exploring the country together. As their trip was ending, April flew home a day earlier than Carla. For her last night, Carla booked a rental at a property called Villa Lumas, an apartment complex in a suburb of San Jose that listed its rooms on Airbnb. She checked in on November 27, 2018. Her flight home was scheduled for the next day, her 36th birthday. That evening, alone in her rental, a sense of unease started to set in. She was messaging her family on WhatsApp, telling them the power kept going out at the villa. In one of her last messages, sent around 8 p.m., she told her sister-in-law that the situation felt pretty sketchy. She also said it was raining hard and that she was going to ask one of the security guards for some water. That was the last time anyone heard from her. But she never made it. Her phone went silent. Her family, knowing this was completely out of character for her, started to panic. What followed was a frantic search. Her family flew to Costa Rica and launched a social media campaign with the hashtag, which quickly gained international attention. They pleaded with everyone for any information that could lead them to her. The security guard at the villa, a 32-year-old man named Bismarck Espinoza Martinez, was questioned by police. He told a story that was immediately suspicious. He claimed he saw Carla get into a strange car at around 5 a.m., hours before she needed to leave for her flight. His story didn't add up, and he became the main suspect. Days later, the family's worst fears came true. On December 3rd, search dogs found Carla's body. She was in a wooded area about 200 feet from the Airbnb, half buried in a shallow grave and wrapped in plastic. The autopsy revealed a brutal struggle. She had been hit in the head and stabbed multiple times in her neck and face. Investigators believe the motive was sexual assault and that she was murdered when she fought back. Bismarck Espinoza Martinez was arrested and charged. The investigation uncovered horrifying security failures at the property. Martinez was living in Costa Rica illegally, was not licensed to work as a security guard, and shouldn't have been employed at all. Yet, he'd been given an apartment at the complex right next to Carla's rental and had master keys to all the units, giving him access to every guest. The man hired to provide security was the greatest threat. Martinez was found guilty of murder and sentenced to just 16 years in prison. The court decided there wasn't enough evidence for a first-degree murder charge, a conclusion that was sickening to a family whose loved one had been stabbed 7 times and beaten to death. Carla's family filed a lawsuit against both Airbnb and the villa's owners, arguing her death was completely preventable. Their lawyer claimed that simple background checks weren't done, and that negative reviews about the property and its staff seemed to have been scrubbed from the platform. The case highlighted the immense responsibility these platforms have to keep their users safe, a responsibility that, in this case, was tragically ignored. In a statement, Airbnb said they were heartbroken and that the villa had been removed from the platform. But for Carla's family, it was far too little, too late. Carla Stefaniak went to Costa Rica to celebrate life. Instead, she was murdered on her 36th birthday by the very person who was supposed to keep her safe. Her story is a devastating final testament to the hidden dangers that can lie just beneath the surface of a picture-perfect vacation. These 4 stories pull back the curtain on the terrifying side of the sharing economy. They're a harsh reminder that behind the convenience and the promise of a unique trip, there's a potential for real darkness. From the silent, watching eye of a hidden camera to the ultimate betrayal by a violent host, these accounts show what can happen when trust is misplaced. The cases of the Barker family, the women in Barcelona, the family in Texas, and the tragic fate of Carla Stefaniak all point to one thing: the vulnerability that comes with stepping into a stranger's home. These platforms run on an assumption of goodwill, but they can't completely protect users from those who want to do harm. And while millions of stays happen without a problem, these stories prove that the cost of a single failure in safety can be immeasurable. They force us to ask tough questions. What is a platform's real responsibility? How can we, as travelers, better protect ourselves? The answers aren't simple, but being aware is the first and most important step. Knowing these dangers exist, being vigilant, and trusting your gut, that isn't paranoia. It's essential for navigating a world where the lines between public and private, safe and dangerous, are getting blurrier every day. The promise of a home away from home is a beautiful one. But as these stories show, it's vital to remember that before it's a home, it's a stranger's house. And it's what you don't know about that stranger that can hurt you. Thank you for watching.